15. Fishing the DMV has big plans for the future, but to get there, I need your help. We only have 15 spots still available. Once these spots are gone, they're gone, and I'll be closing down the club to any new members until further notice. All Weekend Warrior Club members will receive 20% off their orders to Tactical Fishing Company, 15% off their orders to Super Blue Stuff, 10% off their order to Max 4 Fishing Company, 10% off their order to Tiger Crankbaits, 5% off their orders to Jake's Bait and Tackle. They'll also gain access to our 4 club membership tournaments we do each year. They're over month-long tournaments with a ton of great prizes, cash prizes, and giveaways. Right now, the Sizzling Summer Showdown is in full swing. You'll also gain access to our private Facebook group community, a load of members-only content, our weekly newsletter that dives into all the happenings in the fishing world around our area, and so much more. Again, guys, this is only $8 a month, which is less than a Megabass jerkbait. And if you sign up for the whole year, you get 10% off your club membership. But we only have a limited amount of spots. Link in the episode description. We'd love you to join our community. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia. Fishing ProTech, located just outside Williamsburg, Virginia. LMD Enterprises, keeping your boat, truck, and equipment running at its absolute finest. Tactical Fishing Company. Kevin Flint at Flint Financial Planning. Steady, thoughtful guidance that meets you where you are and supports what comes next. And Max 4 Fishing.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens, and today we're heading back up to Pennsylvania. We are going up to the Juniata River system, and we're going to get there in a minute here because I have the winner of the Kayak Adventure Series. He won up there with over 94.50 inches. I have on the legend himself. He is making a name for himself in the kayak fishing world, Jordan Love. Dude, this has been a long time coming. Thank you for coming on.
Yep, no problem. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jordan Lovejoy. I'm from the great state of Maryland, kind of in the Annapolis area, so I'm super blessed to be able to hop up to PA every once in a while and go fish the beautiful Susquehanna River, Juniata Rivers, and all the tributaries and creeks up there, and also slide across to the eastern shore of Maryland and down to Virginia to have some epic tidal water bassing. So, yeah.
Jordan, what I do with all my new guests on the show is, like, what got you into fishing? Like, how did this journey all play out?
So near where I live, my home river is the Severn River, and happened to kind of fish off a pier for a little bit, and then I got into a kayak. And once I get into a kayak, something just clicked, and I wanted to do this. And I was watching all these YouTube videos, learning how to fish, this and that, and I ended up going up to the Susquehanna for a Hobie Bass Open Series event, which is an older trail in the kayak scene. I believe my first tournament was almost 5 years ago now, so been doing it for a little bit, and I'm only 20. I know you're going to look at me and be like, this dude's not 20 years old, but I promise you I am. I would show you my ID, but I'll probably get my identity stolen on here, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it's been a blast, and I've been so blessed to be able to travel all over the country and learn from some of the best kayak anglers in the game and just enjoy the sport of fishing. Like, a lot of guys go out there and it's like they got to win, 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 win. And it's like, I started first tournament on the Susky, I think there was 180 people, and out of the 180 people, I finished 180th on the Susquehanna. I zeroed, and come back 5 years later, I've kind of put some pieces of the puzzle together and was able to pull off a first on the Juniata, which I run up there all the time. It's one of the bodies of water I can call my home water. So it's just been a blast.
Where did you go to high school and college?
So I went to Severna Park High School here in Maryland, and I go to a small Christian school. It's Carson Newman University. We have a big boat team as far as the fishing team goes, and then we also have a kayak team, which is kind of it's been up and coming over the last few years, and there's been a couple of universities that have hopped on the boat with us, and it's been super special. A lot of guys don't realize that you don't have to have $100,000 bass boat to come into college and fish fish for a college team, and it's a pretty unique opportunity. Actually, at Carson Newman, all you have to do is have a little bit of tackle and some rods, and we got a kayak for you. You can come travel the country and fish a bunch of different events with us.
Was it always kayak fishing first, or did you? Because I mean, this is the biggest thing now, which is fascinating because you have like Christine, which is probably what Hall of Fame, like Mount Rushmore of like kayak to bass boat. I would say the transition
Yeah.
usually, but then you have bass boat to kayak anglers. Nolan Miner, I think, is I don't know where you put him if he was bass boat first then kayak, but the case in point, his brother is definitely kayak to bass boat. If you want to say that, would you say that your journey was kayak first, or did you start in a bass boat and segue over?
So I started in a kayak. I've kind of always stayed in a kayak. For me, it's just where I feel more comfortable. And to me, you get to explore parts of these bodies of water that we travel to that a bass boat can never even travel to. Like whether it's some of these creeks and rivers that are almost in a way blocked off from the main lake when it comes to the bass boat side, and it's just a super unique opportunity. Like you mentioned, Nolan and Ewing, I call them the best brothers ever because when they are on them, you literally cannot beat them. I think Ewing just racked up a 112-inch bag on Chickamauga on the TVA system a couple weeks ago and is just breaking records left and right. And he actually is going to be the head coach of the kayak fishing team at Carson Newman here soon, the next couple of months.
Wow. Dude, that's crazy how far kayak fishing has come.
Yeah, I feel like, and people say, oh, it's not growing, this and that. And I don't believe that. Like, I see it firsthand, like the amount of new faces that I'm seeing at every tournament and the amount of old faces I'm still seeing from 5 years ago that are still doing it, that are getting probably, I'm not going to name names, but a little too old to be kayak fishing and probably need to slide over to the bass boat side.
It is fascinating because, like, to me, and I've made this argument on, guys, go check out Basscast Radio where I can just dump my thoughts without thinking. Kayak, you can't bass boat, you cannot fish from a bass boat in every region, every location. You can in a kayak, and so example is where we live. I call it the river smallmouth capital of the world because you go to the New River, the Upper James, the Shenandoah River, the Upper Potomac, the Susquehanna, the Juniata, like all this area. Not great for a bass boat, but for kayaks, it's fantastic. There's so many places. I mean, the Suffolk Lake area down near Chesapeake, Fredericksburg area where the MVKBA, my club, goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many places that are perfect for kayaks. I would assume that I think kayak fishing is doing well when you talk locally and regionally.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like on the national scene, a lot of the guys feel like it's not growing just on the fact that like the numbers aren't super high. But the main reason for that is this year it's been expenses. Obviously, like expenses have been way up. I know a lot of guys that haven't been traveling. That's one of the main reasons that they're not. I feel like hopefully in the next couple of years or next year that once the costs come down, you'll kind of truly see the growth because like you mentioned, the regional and the local has been growing almost exponentially. And I feel like that's going to definitely reflect on the national scene as well.
Yeah, and I try to. It's not the sexy opinion, but to be like, hey, guess what? Gas prices matter.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation matters. Like it's not always scope and the quakey that's the problem. It's also just like people just cannot afford to. Even though I keep speaking highly of going to Clear Lake, which I think is good, but also to get to Clear Lake from where we are is it costs a little bit to get out there for an event.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I felt like that was the right decision this year. The only thing, I love Steve-O to death, and he's the head of Team Dugout, the team that I'm on down in Marietta, Georgia. Dugout Bait and Tackles have been an amazing sponsor of mine, and they've rigged up my kayaks and got me right a couple of times. And I just felt like, at least from what I've heard, this isn't like my personal opinion, because if I had the money to go to Clear Lake, I would have.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys were mentioning that it was almost too close to the Santee event, with it being that following weekend, that they felt like, in a way, it wasn't even worth them making the trip out there because between trying to logistically figure out how to get a kayak out there and do all this and that, it just wasn't really logistically possible for them.
Yeah, and again, just for everyone that's going to be listening to this thing, two things can be true at the same time.
yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but you should keep continuing to give California some love because there's some fisheries that are preposterously stupidly good, and they do need to get love on the national stage. So I just want to make sure that has been said.
I feel like that whole West Coast, in a way, I feel like there's so many slept on lakes, like in all those, like, just say Washington State, everything's got some smaller lakes that, I mean, really do play.
Montana has a lake that's the size of the state of Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I say that not trying to be too parabolic, but it's fascinating that if you dropped an alien here and you told him about bass fishing, you'd be talking about maybe 10 lakes, and you would think, oh, there's only 10 lakes to fish. It's like, no. There is a lot of places that you can fish that are probably good, but it's either it's too big or it's too small, or we just don't go there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the 10 lakes I would name would be scattered all over the country, and the lakes I'd mentioned probably have 10 to 20 surrounding lakes within a 45-minute to an hour drive of them. Like, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you like, North Carolina is a great example of that with the Raleigh lakes that, again, the BPT kind of blew out of the water, but those are good for kayak fishing size wise. The Suffolk area's got like, I think 5 or 6 lakes that all have possibly state record fish in them. And there's so many places like that across the United States where I hope somebody in kayak fishing realizes, like, there are some big bass factories where it's like, they might not be sexy, but once somebody pulls out 100+ inches throughout, and that's throughout the top 10, you're going to want to go back. Like, they're out there.
And I want to touch on something as well with the kayak adventure series. I thought of this earlier and I tried to tie it in, but I didn't know how to tie it in. I really appreciate Drew Gregory for kind of touching on fisheries that are untouched by the other scenes that travel around the country. Like, his next event up in Wisconsin is not far from where the Bassmaster event on the Wolf and Fox, and I forget the lake that's in play. But where Drew's heading to is kind of in the backwoods, tucked away. And from what I've heard so far, it fishes better than the Mississippi, which is crazy to think because the Mississippi in itself is, besides the Susquehanna, I'm a little bit biased because I'm close to the Susquehanna, and in my opinion, there's nothing like it anywhere in the country. The Mississippi truly is a special place.
Definitely for multi-species as well, dude. Like, it's a special place. And in case you are living under a rock and you don't know, I mean, what is the Kayak Adventure Series for somebody for some reason didn't hear about it yet?
So it's kind of it's a smaller series. It's up and coming. We travel all over the country, highlighting some smaller river system, lake systems, all that good stuff. And it's truly just a blast. Like, the community of guys that you travel around with is unmatched. We have some seminars, the Bass University seminar at every event. I know Jeff Little's been leading a couple of the last ones, and just a super awesome guy to learn from. I ran into him on Wednesday of practice last week and actually got an on the water paddling lesson from him because he noticed some stuff while I was out there that he said, so cool. If you get in the wrong situation, you're probably going to die. I said, I'll take whatever lessons you got for me, because last thing I want to do is flip on a river and get sucked into the current. But yeah, super awesome community. We touch on fisheries that are, for the most part, untouched on the kayak side. And it's honestly, we travel to some of the most beautiful places in the country. And for those of you guys who have never been up to the Juniata River Valley or the Susquehanna, it is, once again, in my opinion, I'm a little bit biased, I'm gonna put that out there, the most beautiful place in the country, especially the Juniata. Once you get up kind of in the mountains and you're just in a valley and it's a beautiful blue sky summer day, there's nothing like it in the country. Like, and the quality of fish this time of year that are up there is really unmatched.
Yeah, the Susquehanna is a fascinating thing when it comes to Bassmaster. Pretty much put the St. Lawrence River on the map when they went there, and I think kayak fishing really, like, if you lived here, you knew about it, but on a national scale, kayak fishing is like when everyone like, oh, what is this place? This is pretty cool. Um, and that's the thing is like, if you grew up in Pennsylvania, this is why it's hard to get into bass boat fishing. You're either going to deer hunt, fish the Great Lakes, or you're going to be getting a jet boat or a kayak and you're fishing the Susquehanna. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you are not from here, you do not understand. This thing is like the Mississippi River. It is preposterously, stupidly big. It is
Yeah.
massive. The Shenandoah, guys, I grew up on the Shenandoah. I live next to the Upper Potomac. I can throw a baseball, even at my age, across that thing. The Susky is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
And I feel like most of the guys look at like the water level charts online and be like, oh, it's at like, for example, right now it's at like 3.65 feet, which is low for this time of year. But um, when you look at that, you're like, oh, it's only 3.6 feet deep. And I'm like, you realize that the river is so wide that that's just kind of an average of the depth of the river. And you don't like realize that there's holes that are 20 to 25, even 30 foot deep that hold some giant fish in themselves. And it's such a special fishery. It's hard to even put it into words how much of a awesome place it is.
And and guys, in the back end of the show, we're going to get into the tournament and how he won. And I want to first, you grew up in Annapolis, Baltimore area, known for gang violence, but not for fishing necessarily. And it's not a scopy place either. Like, and I think this is so interesting that because fishing basically revolves around Alabama, and that's the echo chamber.
Mhm.
You get these people on the fringes like us, where all of our systems are stumpy 3 inches of water tidal fisheries. So, what is your style growing up, and what do you consider your strengths now?
So my strength, I'm gonna start off with my strengths now because I actually have this rod laying over here, and it's gonna be that right there, a chatterbait. I've kind of dialed chatterbait in over the years, spent a lot of time with it in my hands, and do a lot of things subconsciously now that when I try to describe it to people, it doesn't really go over the best because I kind of tell them to just chuck and wind, but there's a little bit more to it. But growing up, like having the Eastern Shore rivers, Susquehanna, all these tidal rivers that we have around us, you scope, like you said, just doesn't play. Like you have to go around, you have to learn to cover water, power fish, because there's very few places around here that the fish are in the same area more than once. And my like from what I've seen, um, like you have to cover water efficiently and not cover too much water in a way. You have to break it down. It's honestly like a day by day thing. Like some days you might only have to out of the kayak cover if you have a motor 5 to 6 miles, and there's other days that just to put a limit together, I'm covering 20 to 25 miles throughout the day, just running around hitting certain like high percentage areas. And I feel like when I go down to college down in Tennessee, it's where I'm still able to kind of show my skills and cash checks going around throwing moving baits. But scope really, if you don't master scope, there's very few tournaments that you will win down there, which is the complete opposite of here.
How dominant is scope? So it's fascinating to me because you hear the drama ad nauseum on the bass boat side with scope, but at least at the local and regional level, you don't hear it in the kayak world.
Yeah, like
It's fascinating that dichotomy.
yeah, I feel like locally you have such a small group of guys that are kind of all close with each other to where it doesn't bother them in a way because they're able to bounce ideas off of each other and this and that. But on the national scene, all these tournaments getting one off scope, like you have the scope crowd, which is all like it's you're not good with it, you got to learn it, and then like you'll catch big fish is kind of essentially what they get at. And I feel like, but you also have the group of guys that's like me that just runs around like a chicken with his head cut off all day and tries to put together 5 fish. And, um, but like to me, the way I look at it is fish your strengths and don't try to learn like new styles of fishing while you're practicing or at a tournament because it never goes over well. Like, fine, find what you like to do and go do it. Like, and that's coming from me being 20, and I've only been doing this for 5 years. And I honestly, the last 2 years has kind of been where I still have a part-time job. And when I'm at school, I primarily focus on school beside like when we do travel for fishing a good bit, but I feel like just dialing in techniques in your off time can really help you out. Like when we go up north, I do scope. Like when we go to Champlain and all them Finger Lakes up there, I will scope and I'm able to catch fish off scope. But when we're down here and even some of the other parts of the country where I feel like power fishing will play, that's what I stick to because it's what I like to do. Now, sometimes I do get beat by Ewing Minor, which is like 3/4 of the time, but I'll take it. Ewing is an awesome guy, and there's something else going on with him besides just being good at fishing. There's some sort of like sixth sense he's got going on up there that just helps him find fish.
Yeah, you mentioned some things interesting. I definitely want to do a deep dive. I know Ryan Gary, he's our head DWR guy for Maryland. He did a massive report on scope. I think Serious Angler Podcast got him on. I'm going to get him on this summer. That on the split of wins with and without scope. And I would love the same study for kayak tournaments at some point. So if anyone's listening that wants to do that, that would be fascinating because I just feel like because you don't have a 250 in the back, you can't optimize live scope like you can in a bass boat, which will give the advantage back to people like you to fish. You have more of a chance.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of an opposing opinion there. I feel like you're right for most of the fisheries in the country, but I feel like a couple of fisheries that we go to, you're almost better off in a kayak, and you're able to position your boat a lot better. And also, like, it's a stealthier approach to scope.
100%.
You don't have the bass don't have a 21-foot bass boat shadow coming down on them, and I feel like it's unique in itself. Like even like me power fishing the bank, like a lot of the places I do it, if you're in a boat, you're spooking every fish within 200 to 300 yards of where you're fishing at. And I feel like that more subtle approach of a kayak can really, really pay off with scope or fishing up shallow.
Water displacement. Like it's the thing that no one talks about because it's not sexy. That's why if you're going to be in a boat, Keith Poche's boat's better and a kayak's even better than that because the amount of fish I've had short strike, you guys can see it on my Instagram where I blew up a heavy action rod with a 6.5 pounder eating it boat side or kayak side. That literally never happened in my Ranger boat, but 90% of the time it happens in a kayak where they'll track it that way. It's got to be something about the smaller vessel. It really does.
Yeah. And I feel like that even played. I lost some fish this past weekend on the Juniata at the kayak. Like I watched them shoot up off the bottom directly under the kayak and come after my chatterbait. And it in a jet boat, that's never happening. Like it just isn't going to happen.
Well, as we tie into the Juniata, what is your history on smallmouth fishing? I mean, again, you grew up in Annapolis. You go to Tennessee, the TVA system. Like, did you always have a little bit of experience in smallmouth water? Or is that a skill that you built up over time?
So I'd say it's a skill that I built up over time. I mentioned that my first tournament was on the Susquehanna. And just over the past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time on the Susquehanna. Like, even when I was in high school and I just started to drive, I'd drive up there, fish for a couple of days, come back for a week, drive back up there, fish for a couple of days, and come back. And I feel like last summer for me was when the river smallmouth really just clicked. I spent almost 47 days on the Susquehanna, and I was just dialing in some approaches and techniques that a lot of people don't utilize up there. Like I feel like it's just you're either finesse fishing or throwing top water. I feel like that's what 75% of the people that go up there go to do. And there is a little bit of power fishing mixed in there with like a spinner bait and a chatterbait, but the majority of the people that go up there are just stuck on this top water smallmouth deal that in late summer when the water's low and even when it's high does play, but there's different ways to approach the river smallmouth. And I feel like also being down in Tennessee and having access to some smaller river systems such as the Holston River and the French Broad River, if anybody's ever heard of them, kind of changed my approach to the whole river smallmouth deal.
We are looking for a couple more sponsors to come on board to help out Fishing the DMV pay the bills. If you would like to see your business grow, think about sponsoring Fishing the DMV. We are the #1 fishing and outdoor show in the Mid-Atlantic area, and we are continually growing, getting bigger and bigger every year. Thank you so much.
I want to give a quick shout out to Max 4 Fishing. If you're a river angler, creek fisherman, or someone who loves chasing smallmouth and bass on finesse gear, you need to check them out. Max 4 Fishing offers a full lineup of soft plastics, tungsten jig heads, hooks, weights, hard baits, rods, and apparel, built for anglers who like to fish small, fish smart, and catch big fish. Whether you're throwing a Ned rig, drop shot, swim bait, Larry, the Max Crawl, a stonefly, or even an earwig, Max 4 has some of the most realistic baits on the market. Ton of options that fit perfectly for our local DMV waterways. So head on over to max4fishing.com, link in the episode description, and if you are watching on YouTube, you can use the QR code that's right here on the screen right now. Tell them Tom from Fishing the DMV sent you.
This episode of Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Kevin Flint and Flint Financial Planning. Kevin Flint helps families, business owners, and professionals get organized, make smarter financial decisions, and build a personalized plan for your future. Kevin is a certified financial planner with a background in banking, education, and community leadership. After more than a decade in corporate banking, Kevin shifted into financial planning to build a deeper relationship and do more meaningful work with families who want practical, personalized financial guidance built around real life. Whether you're planning for retirement, investing for the future, running a small business, starting a guide service, managing tournament winnings, or simply trying to take better care of your family, Flint Financial Planning can help you build a smarter financial game plan. For more information, visit www.flintfinancialplanning.com, link in the episode description, or if you're watching on YouTube, check out the QR code that's on the screen now. Tell them Thomas from Fishing the DMV sent you. Tactical Fishing Company is a veteran-owned fishing brand that specializes in soft plastics and hollow body frogs that are designed in-house. They collaborate with anglers across the country, giving you some of the best designs out there. If you haven't checked them out yet, you're really missing out. Their #1 selling bait is the MRE, Minnow Ready to Eat Hybrid Swim Bait. It flat out catches fish. Whether you're throwing it on your favorite spinnerbait or bladed jig as a trailer, or using it as a standalone finesse presentation, it's one of those baits you can keep tied on all day and stay confident in. And if you're chasing snakehead, Tactical Fishing Company has you covered. They make some of the most rugged, durable frogs out on the market today, from the Dragon Pop to my personal favorite, the Rizzard. When it's time to try and tame your next dragon, they've got the tools you need to make the day on the water memorable. So go support a veteran-owned business, fish with confidence, and make every cast count. Check out Tactical Fishing Company, link in the episode description down below. All right, guys, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our newest sponsor, Fishing ProTech. They are located outside of Williamsburg, Virginia, in Tuano, Virginia. If you're a serious angler, and I'm talking about a serious bass angler, you have got to go check out this shop. They have one of the greatest collections of JDM tackle on the planet. I'm talking Megabass, Depths, IMA, OSP. They got it all. And these are the baits that you're seeing on TV winning all those big tournaments. So if I were you, I would go down there and check it out, pick up the bait that's going to win your next tournament. I'll put a link in the episode description to their Facebook, phone number, and address. Tell them I sent you. If you're serious about keeping your boat, truck, or equipment running at its absolute best, you need to check out LMD Enterprises. They're a wholesale distributor of premium lubricants and filtration for everything from automotive to marine. But more importantly, they help you reduce your total operational cost. It means better fuel efficiency, less downtime, fewer breakdowns, and a longer engine life. Whether you're running a bass boat, towing your rig across multiple state lines, or just trying to get the most out of your equipment, this stuff really matters. They carry a full lineup of high-performance products, from marine engine oils, two-stroke outboard oils, to diesel oils, fuel additives, transmission fluids, and water-resistant grease built for harsh conditions. But what really separates LMD Enterprises is the service. They offer consultation, oil analysis, and custom maintenance planning. You're making decisions based on real data. That means you can track wear, extend engine life, and even increase resale value when it's time to upgrade. If you want your equipment to last longer, perform better, and save you money, this is a no-brainer. Check them out at lmdoil.com. If you're on YouTube, hit the QR code up above. The link is in the episode description. Tell them Fishing the DMV sent you.
How, when you talk about the Juniata, does it fish similar to the Susky, or is it more like, I don't even know the river you've been on? An example, I guess the French, or the Holston, or the Shenandoah, or the Upper Potomac, if you've had any experience in that. What does it fish most similar to?
I'd say the Upper Potomac, honestly, the New River, It's just not as shoaly as the new river. I feel like the fish behavior is very, very close to the new and the Holston, as well as the upper Potomac. I feel like if you're talking about like structurally how it sets up,
Yeah.
similar to the upper Potomac in a way where you have a lot of super flat, just rock. Like you can just go for miles. Like a couple of the areas that I fish up there, you can just go for miles and it's the same depth, same type of rock. There's zero differences
Yeah.
in the river. And
Especially from Brunswick, not Brunswick, Point of Rocks down. It just
yeah,
is just nothing all the way through. Okay.
and it like I mean, there is differences that they will hold on, but it's so like microscopic. If you were to look at it on satellite images, like there's no way that you would even know that there was a change in the bottom there. Like you
Mm,
almost have to step foot on a lot of that river. And I feel like for me, I mean, I've touched on the Susquehanna, I've touched everything from the fiber dam down to Harrisburg and below, but that stretch there, the fiber dam to Harrisburg, I have literally fished almost every single rock that comes out of the water on that stretch. Like I've touched both sides, the middle, and that's another thing. A lot of guys like to go down the bank and do this and that and fish the grass islands up on the Susquehanna, but I'll just run down the middle of whatever cut I'm in and just because I know what lives out there. I know what lives on the bank, but what lives out in the middle of these rivers, even on the Juniata. I did a 25-mile float. I touched the bank twice on a 2-mile float or 25-mile float.
yeah. I mean, that's a dirty secret of river anglers, I think. Like, it's the same thing on the upper Potomac, especially you fish down below the Monocacy, which is the section I fish a lot. It's like you can just float because there's boulders and smaller things there that like you can find on. And here's a little when it gets super shallow, go out there and waypoint it, and then you'll see it because then at normal flow, like it's gone. But there are
Yep.
things down there that you can just drift the section, and
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's close on the Susquehanna too. Like when the water's super low and clear in the summer. The biggest tip I can give you guys, especially since we have that Bassmaster event coming up, like if you do floats in practice for that event, mark any sort of little piece of structure, whether it's there's just trees in the middle of the river in some places. There's tires that fish hold on during some parts of the summer. There's rock that you will not even know, like ledge rock that's there that you'll have no idea when the water's up because that time of year, if you get a big rain at the start of the week, especially upriver, I mean, that river can come up really, really quick and it completely changes the approach of how you fish it in a way. Like you can go do the same exact thing that was happening before, but those fish, at least for me, have always kind of stayed where they were at when that water was low. They haven't really moved to where the water's moved up to. And it's kind of another little secret of mine is like just if the water comes up on any of these rivers around here, try to make it happen where you were catching fish before. I mean, it might be 5 foot deep, 4 foot deep now, but I promise you a lot of those fish are still there and they're just holding, waiting for that water to come down.
Yeah, I think people, it's a cliche of the Bassmaster magazine, like, okay, you got to follow them with the water. And there is fish do that, but then there are fish that I think get overlooked. And I think that's the thing when it comes to tournament fishing is the population that moves with the flow, they're the ones that get beat to death. So it's almost like you have a population that you get all to yourself. And it's the same thing with lakes or rivers.
Yeah. And I feel like touching on the Juniata event that I just was at last weekend, it was me like, but I'm trying to think between the 2 days of the tournament, we had a half day. So that's another unique thing about the Kayak Adventure Series. So you have a Friday afternoon session, which is generally from like 2 to 3 p.m. to close to dark. And just on that day alone, we had I think it was 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. We had 5 hours to fish, and I covered 12 miles of river upriver. Um, just going up the middle, and any sort of little difference, whether it's like just a change in rock, like there was certain rock that they were holding on just because of this time. It's the time of year that they're coming. I know for a fact that they just had another big spawn about a week and a half ago. So a lot of the fish were still kind of in a little bit of a post spawn funk. And I felt like a lot of the fish that were up on the bank, there was anytime you'd find like a foam mat, like anywhere near any sort of moving water, there was a lot of fry garters that were still up there. And most of the fish in the river did still have the behavior that they have when they're on bed and they're just chasing stuff away. So like you'd have a lot of fish that for me would be in the middle of the river, and I wouldn't even have to catch them to see what size of fish were in that stretch. They just come up and they just kind of tail my chatterbait or spinnerbait or whatever I was throwing in practice. And that's another thing about just fishing the middle of the river sometimes is like you said, you have access to fish that just don't get touched. And um, that's kind of always just been my style, is just finding a different approach to what everybody else is going to be doing.
It's not about always having the best pattern. It's about having the pattern
Yeah.
that no one else knows about, or that the fish that
Yeah.
you just have them to yourself.
Like I had another event down in Tennessee on Watts Bar Lake, and it was the start of the year. The water was drawn down, and there was a little culvert that I push pulled my way through in a Hobie PA-14, and literally sat there with, there was a spring fed lake, and then there was like a little like rock jetty almost between the lake and this part of the of Watts Bar that cannot be touched by anything other than a kayak. And I sat there for 2 days and just absolutely wore every single largemouth out that lived in that little, it was a pocket off the main lake. It was so much fun.
And that's a good thing, is we didn't even mention that. What were you running kayak wise for this event?
This event, so I was running a Crescent Shoalie. It was actually designed by Drew Gregory. He's been a really good friend of mine over the years, and that's another thing that Drew does in the Kayak Adventure Series. I'm kind of thinking of things as we go through. This right here. So he has the Next Up division that I have. I won the event for that on the New River and on the Juniata, and that highlights younger anglers out there. And it's up to 20 years old is where the cap is to register for that. So what he does is he'll give you 50% off your entry fee to the regular event, which is $150. So it drops it down to 75, and then the entry fee for the team event 75. So altogether, if you fish the team and the individual, you're in for the same price as if it were just to be the individual side. And for me, that's allowed me to travel to more events this summer. Like I'm not made of money. My parents helped me out a lot when I was younger, and they still do a little bit now, but a lot of the stuff's coming out of my pocket, and it that there makes a big difference for a lot of these guys out there.
And guys, as always, I put a ton of links in the episode description. I'll also put a link to the Kayak Adventure Series. You can go check that out if that's something you want to do this year or going into next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, great club. And what was my brain going to say? Oh, I mean, I guess it's time to get into it. So going into this event, what was your game plan? What was practice like? What were you formulating in your mind going into Friday?
So Friday, I had a different approach. I'm going to start off with practice. So practice, just from being a local guy around here, we all know what happens this time of year if you do fish for river smallmouth. So especially on the Susquehanna, these fish are going up to spawn, and where they spawn, there is some fish that'll spawn on the main river. Of course, there's always some random fish out there that don't like to do it like me, like how I like to fish. They like to just go do their own thing, but they utilize their tributaries, which the Juniata is the largest of all of those. So obviously, the majority of the fish population on the Susquehanna is going to go up to the Juniata to spawn, which brings, it highlights, monster resident fish that are always in the Juniata that never leave, but there's another set of monster fish that come up from the Susquehanna to spawn. And this is a time of year that if you want to go catch them, you gotta go, because the size of the Juniata is significantly smaller than the main branch of the Susquehanna River. And like kind of how I mentioned how there's sections of just river that are completely the same, like same bottom, no differences. There's like no sort of little contours of the river or anything like that. It kind of puts them in textbook places. Like there's only so many places for them to go as well. They can only go so far up. Like you can almost like plan it out and time it out. My approach to the tournament though, so Friday, what I did is I'm just gonna drop it because it was my first time fishing there. I just liked how it's set up. But the Narrows on the Juniata, just with what I noticed the fish were relating to, which was for me isolated rock in the middle of the river. So it was either just boulders that were either below the surface coming out of the water, or just almost like small pebble rock, which I could see old beds on that I could tell fish were spawning there not too long ago, and they were still around. And then my Saturday approach was actually, the cutoff was lower down and lower down on the river. So what I did, what's also unique about the Kayak Adventure Series, is you can put in at a ramp, the last legal ramp, and you can float however far down. Like I could have fished the Susquehanna River for about 3.5, 4 hours on Saturday. That's how quickly I did that long float. And that was kind of my approach, was just getting down to the good water. Like there's a couple of sets of shoals that are on the lower end of the river that allow, yeah, the Lewistown Narrows.
Just that generic section for anybody that is like in California and doesn't know what the hell we're talking about. So Susquehanna River comes in on the left side. Part of the Juniata, by the way, is fed by Raystown. So if you guys want some history, so that's the narrow section. As you guys can tell, there is a metric shit ton of feeder creeks compared to the rivers I'm used to fishing. It's wild.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy. That's why I say there's really nothing like it in the country. It's like very few rivers I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of rivers around the country, have this many feeder creeks and tributaries that come up off them.
Why did you pick that area? Was it literally just you threw some dice against a wall and whatever landed on 6 is where you're going to go, or what?
So, in a way, yes, but farther up from the ramp at the Narrows, there's 2 sets of like smaller shoals that one of them honestly has a difference of about 10 foot of river elevation, but it's super subtle. Like when you're looking at it, like you can see that there's like a 10-foot difference, but it's not like if you're on the new and it's a 10-foot difference, you're going straight down. Like I feel like for me, the fish were holding in some of the faster moving whitewater, and that was one of the only places besides lower down in the river that I found fish holding in that. And just the way it's set up, and also the amount of pressure it was getting. I pre-fished there one day in practice, and I think I saw one other kayaker, and that was it. So that's kind of my approach, is just getting away from everybody and just picking a section of the river that, at least from whatever pattern I get in practice, I can replicate there, or kind of replicate. Because the way it works with the Kayak Adventure Series as well is you only need 5 fish over a day and a half. So you can
Your best
almost
5.
your best 5. So you can approach it as if like you only need 3 big bites a day. So like I also did well on a New River event for the Kayak Adventure Series, and how that worked is Friday, I think I caught 3 fish, and Saturday I did a 27-mile float and caught 3 fish. Like it's just sitting there and grinding out whatever pattern you get on. And for me, it's always been just a chatterbait. Like, I'm just going to be straight up, like, I own way too many chatterbaits and I've spent way too much money on chatterbaits to not throw chatterbait everywhere I go. So it's kind
Yeah,
of just,
like smallmouth baits, you can kind of get a little autism with it, but generally speaking, it's meat and potato stuff because the Ned rig and the tube and the chatterbait will work on every river system. Like it just will. This is a more of a tactical thing. When it came to cell service, what was more of a nightmare, the New River or the Juniata?
100% the New River.
That's what
I think I went on that 27-mile float. I think I went like 26 miles without any sort of cell service. It was crazy.
Did you have to plant? So when I did when NVKBA went to the Shenandoah, I picked the South Fork and I had to take Starlink because I just flat out knew I would not be able to upload a damn thing from morning until I got back. Like, did you have to plan that?
In a way, yes. So I also own Starlink, so I always keep that in the
Oh,
truck as a backup in case
smart.
like I get to the ramp and it's like you got 10 minutes left to submit fish. It's like that's always like been a kind of a safety net for me. But like a lot of the places that the Kayak Adventure Series goes is like hidden gems all over the country, which generally a hidden gem of a river doesn't have the best cell service. So you have to. Now, Drew does give us about, I think it's an hour and a half to submit fish after. So he gives us an extra 30 minutes compared to most of the other trails out there. And that helps out a good bit because if it's me and I got a mega bag of smallmouth or largemouth, I don't care. I'm leaving my kayak at the ramp and I'm driving however far away to go submit fish. But the new was, I had to use a different approach because the stretch that I had cell service was, I believe, the first mile of the float that I did. So throughout the day, well, I'll tell you this. Friday, I did donuts about a mile up from the ramp in the middle of the river for about 30 minutes trying to submit 5 fish, if that tells you how bad the cell service is. Because like generally, even when you have a little bit of cell service, you're still able to like submit a fish within a decent amount of time. But I wasn't gonna make it back to the ramp on time, and I said, "I gotta do this now," because, like, I with how shallow it was, I was gonna have to walk for that 30 minutes, and there was no way I was submitting fish, so I just picked I'll generally mark an area in practice that has a little bit of cell service. Now, this has bit me in the butt a couple of times, but
Power move though.
yeah, it definitely helps. Like, I remember just doing donuts with the phone up in the air, just, like, spinning in circles trying to get these fish submitted.
Yep. Or guys, or just pay Daddy Elon Musk and get Starlink. I will tell you, you don't have as many gray hairs when you have that in your truck or whatever. It's so nice to have that as a backup.
And actually, Bassmaster is going to be utilizing whoever has Starlink in the upcoming seasons because we just branched off and did. We've always kind of been affiliated with the Classic. Now we're branching off and doing our own championship. So we're going to have the media trucks and a giant staff of the Bassmaster media crew. And apparently, from what I've heard so far, they're going to be live streaming the championship to whether, I don't know if it's, I can't imagine it's going to be TV, but Bassmaster.com, which is going to be really cool in itself because I feel like you're going to be able to see the true personality of a lot of these kayak guys that just can't be replicated on the boat side. Like, some of these guys are like, they're just all Jared Swindles of kayak fishing and Matt Robertson's. Like, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're doing that. This is, again, guys, this is my own opinion here, so you can kill me for it. But like, that's what was lost when Hobie disappeared, is you didn't have the kayak championship. It just felt like it was like this thing that was attached to the boat thing, which was the Bassmaster Classic. It didn't feel the same as the tournament champions that Hobie did. So I'm glad they're like doing that now.
Yeah, and I feel like the only way that people felt the same as if they were in the Classic was if you got a top 10 finish and you got to walk across the Bassmaster Classic stage. Like, I feel like that was a big part for a lot of the guys' sponsors, like, ever since they started that. But at the same time, I feel like now this is even a bigger opportunity to grow and get new sponsors and get more outreach out there because you're touching on are touching a like new audience of people that like might have never known about the kayak fishing side. And I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for us.
Circling back to the tournament, so you narrowed it down to the narrows, chatterbait. Did it
Mhm.
all happen quickly? Like, did you know you were doing a thing, or was it a grind to kind of get to the finish line?
So I figured it out pretty quick. So I think my first day of practice was, I think it was Tuesday. I got up there about 1 p.m. on Tuesday, and I think I fished for an hour and a half that day. And I knew I was going to be, I was very dialed on that approach of just finding isolated rock near any sort of moving water. It just, now how I had to fish the chatterbait changed from practice to the tournament. So in practice, I was able to kind of just do what everybody else does and cast upstream and just work the eddy coming off the side like if it was just bait flowing down the river. But during the tournament, I think all the big fish I caught was going downriver, working across the rock because they were holding so tight on it. Like their face was against the rock. And like there was a couple of fish, they were like 11 to 12-inch smallmouth that I actually snagged with a chatterbait unintentionally that made me like key in on this because like where I positioned my bait, the only way that I would have been able to do that would have been if their face was directly against the boulder. And that was another thing. They were in a post-spawn funk, so they were setting up really weird throughout the week. And I feel like we had some hotter days. It was cooler than what I was used to down here. Like I left the house Tuesday morning to go up there, and it was like 93 degrees here, and I get up there and it's 72. But at 72 up there still feels like it's 80 to 90 degrees here, in my opinion, just with the sun coming down and bouncing off the trees in the valley. And just throughout the week, I noticed some little changes like that. That if you were a guy just going down the river throwing a chatterbait, I would outfish you 10 to 1. Like it was just that little difference made a huge difference in the fact that I was able to put together a limit. And that was, I mean, I put up 94 and a half, and like no joke, I had 102 to 103 inches on my line. Like it that's what I'm saying. The Juniata is such a slept on river this time of year, especially when you're from down here and you don't know about that, the fact that the fish utilize their tributaries to spawn, that it's such a special place, and there's so many big fish up there right now.
Why did you not have the voice in your head to say, like, I want to drag something at all?
Mainly
Or did
because
you?
with I did, so I tried. Generally, my I have like ADHD, and it's really hard for me to like fish slowly in a way. But I tried for about 45 minutes on Tuesday, and I just didn't like how the fish were reacting. Like they wanted the chatterbait slower, but at the same time, like they didn't want like a Ned rig dragged by their face or like a jig coming by them. They wanted something that was moving, just not moving very fast. Like, and in a way, this is another thing that I had happen. So this is an Evo tungsten. I'm a big jackhammer guy. Like I'm a jackhammer guy through and through. I could not get him to touch a jackhammer this past weekend. Like
Hmm.
I don't think I caught a single fish on a jackhammer all week. And what's different about the Evo from the jackhammer is Evo has a slower startup and a different hunting action. So when it's in faster current, I actually find that the fish react to an Evo better than a jackhammer because of the fact that it looks like live bait coming down the river, like how it naturally would come down. Like it'll hit like a little seam and it'll kind of dart off back in multiple different ways. And when they're following your bait like they were this time of year, just with them being post spawn and just they were aggressive, but not aggressive at the same time. Like they'd be aggressive to follow it. They wouldn't be aggressive to commit to your bait. Just that little subtle difference between the jackhammer and the Evo really played for me. And I know that the other guy, the guy that got second actually is a buddy of mine. And we fished together at the new, and when we came to the Juniata, we did that long float on day 2 together. And another key for me actually on day 2 was I honestly shot ahead of the pack. We had about 30 guys that put in at that lower ramp, and all these guys, once lines in hit like 15 minutes after we could launch, they all kind of slowed down a little bit to fish. I just kept going. Because if any of you guys fish the Juniata, you know there's a couple of sets of shoals. I'm not going to say where at because people will get mad at me. But there's a couple of sets of shoals at this time of year really do shine. And just that lower section of the river really, really does play. Now there's larger fish throughout the river, but for me, there's a higher concentration farther down than there is up of
And
larger fish.
yeah. And that's the thing that I've realized with smallmouth river tournaments is you have to be in the right section. It just it doesn't like it's preposterously stupid how many fish on the upper Potomac get caught between the confluence of the Shenandoah and like Brunswick.
Yeah.
And it's not a big area, but no matter how many kayaks you put in there, they're almost all of them are in the top 10. It's the same thing with the Shenandoah, and it sounds the same with the Juniata. You have to pick the right section. Even if you're in the wrong section and you have the whole river to yourself, it does not matter because there might not be any smallmouth there.
Yeah. And I feel like the Juniata, it has dead water, but like especially this time of year, I can tell you out of that 25-mile float, there was not a single stretch of it that was dead. Like, I mean, I was pulling fish out of just completely slack water, out of less than a foot of water. And like most people would just be like, oh, there's not fish there. I'm like, this time of year, you don't know, like these fish have minds of their own. It's like, yes, they have instincts that'll make them do this and that and set up mostly the same way as every other smallmouth in that river, but there's always a couple that just sit out there. And a lot of the times those fish are not pressured at all because you got all these guys that are just blowing through these sections. And like, yes, I'm going at 4.5 to 5.5 miles an hour fishing downriver with my motor on like 30%, but I'm still fishing. Like we had one guy that I was kind of fighting with all day, like trying to maintain who's going downriver first. And I thought he was actually going to beat me to the shoals that we had downriver, but he stopped and pulled off on this random stretch of bank. And I'm going to be completely honest, that was the one stretch of bank I didn't catch any bass on all week. So I was like, you can have that. I'm going to keep going downriver.
But that's to the point. Is like you knew the section within the section that was the best, and you have to be the first one in that section, especially with power fishing techniques. Like it's because the Juniata compared, it's not the Susquehanna when it comes to width, and so you can't have 10 people floating down it. You know, it will spook them, and that's the same thing again. Like it goes back to like the Shenandoah for me, where if people float through a section, whether they fish or not, the fish get tipped off to it. Like they get it. It's not deep. And they know when people go there. So it is so important that you're the first guy there to hit those casts in the morning.
Yeah. And I feel like for me that it definitely helped, but it was also like I had caught fish all week, like fishing behind everybody. Cause it's like they're all doing like we had 6 guys in our Airbnb that we were staying at. We did fish together a couple of the days, and I actually would kind of hang back farther in the group to see how they were approaching it and just do the complete opposite. And they wouldn't be catching fish and I would. And like even on that float, like getting down, like I get it, like a lot of the guys that I know that were like, oh, you won because you were fishing fresh water. I was like, in a way, yes, but also no at the same time. Like I was fishing behind people on Saturday later in the day and I was still catching quality fish. And it's just how you approach it. And I feel like for me that just that little bit of local knowledge helped play a role into me winning it. But like it honestly, every tournament nowadays there's some sort of little local knowledge, whether it's information that people have gathered before the no information period or all that sort of stuff.
Did people really think like, oh, you won just because of new water? Because like, isn't that the tactic? That's like, oh, you won because you caught bigger fish. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, of course that's what happens. Like, I don't understand like how that could be put as a negative. It's like that's kind of part of
Yeah,
the
and
deal.
I feel like for me, so I recently just this is another player that helps me have an edge over the rest of the competition as far as getting to new water is I just swapped from a Torpedo motor, which has its own proprietary battery, to a Newport. Um, Newport just hopped on as one of my sponsors, and it's been just an amazing experience for the month I've owned this motor. Like, they have a battery called the Low Pro, and it's a 36-volt, 50 amp hour battery. I'm yet to kill it, and I've no joke at Santee a few weeks ago covered almost 30 miles in one day, and I still had 15% left on my motor. And when you're doing that float, there was the majority of the guys were using Torpedoes, and the Newport. I think I did that float and I got off the water and I still had 55% on my battery. Like these guys are stopping to change batteries nonstop, and I'm just going. And like that's another 15 to 20 minutes that I'm gaining not having to mess with battery problems or swapping batteries all day. And like just that 20 minutes, like how many times have you caught a fish in a kayak tournament within the last 2 to 3 minutes and you got to sit there and take a
Yeah.
photo? Like it happens all the time. And like for a while, I felt like I was just missing out on that. Like, yes, I was fishing for the last 15 minutes, but at the same time, I wasted 20 minutes throughout the day changing batteries on my motor.
When
And
did you
uh,
know that feeling in your record head like I just did a thing?
like during the tournament,
Yeah. Or did it even hit you during the
um,
tournament?
so actually, it did hit me during the tournament. I have a little bit of a video, but it cut off before I said, I just won this freaking tournament. Let's go. But um, the guy that was even close to me was my buddy Josh Weist, who was the one doing the float with me, and he was in second. And he started out the day, I think, with 91.5 inches on Saturday. And he caught a couple of good coals, like some 18 to 18 and a half inch fish. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Then we were talking crap to each other for the last like 20, 30 minutes, like, or I'd say even the last hour and a half. Like we were fishing the same shoal and we'd come across each other. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to make this difficult for you. And then literally 5 minutes later, I think I caught a 18, which put me within like an inch of him. And I'm like, okay, I have a shot. Like I'm back in it. I still have a 17 and like 3/4 to call out. And then I ended up going to the next shoal down, and my buddy got there before me, Jimmy Entwistle, who was my partner for the team division, and he caught a 20 and a half. So I slid down that way and got below him and got to the faster moving stuff first. And then Josh came down and then Jimmy came down, and we're all sitting there. We're all literally making casts at this seam that's coming down the middle of the river. And I remember just it was super windy and the wind blew, and I saw like the top of a rock poke out in the middle of the seam, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a money cast right here. Cast up there and caught a 19 1/4 to get me up to 94 and a half. And I was like, I just won this tournament. Like it just like hit me right there. And what's even crazier is I'm not a cocky person whatsoever. Like I'm fairly humble for the most part. Like yes, I have my moments as we all do, but um 2 weeks before I even signed up for the tournament, or even like I just thought of traveling to it, I told my parents, like, I have this weird feeling I'm going to win this tournament. Like, I don't know what it is. Ewing's had the same thing before. It's just like I had something in my head saying, you're going to win this tournament. And when I went and did that, I was like completely shocked. Like, it was, and it for me, like, my journey started up there in PA on the Susquehanna River. And like I said, I zeroed on the Susquehanna, which is a very hard thing to do because there's a lot of small fish running around if you just throw a Ned rig. And the fact that I was able to get my first like big win, like I've top 10 a lot of events and cashed a lot of checks, but I've been chasing that win. And the fact that I was able to do it less than 25 minutes from the place that my journey started was like truly really special to me. And I'm so blessed to be able to do.
I think I'm over. I think we're close to 600 episodes of this show, which is preposterous. And everyone I've talked to, I'm convinced you no matter what you do, you can't force a win. It is like saying like I want to pitch a perfect game.
Yeah.
You gotta emotionally like check out of like you do the best you can to top 10, but to win, it's literally like that. You get that feeling when you get ready in the bullpen and all of a sudden your curveball's working good. You just feel different. And it's a magical thing to win because it is hard work and being successful, but a little bit of luck. And it all just comes together to just do what you said. Like I remember when I got a win in a smaller tournament last year. It's the same thing. It's that feeling. No matter what you do, it just works. It's crazy, that feeling.
Yeah. And like I've had days like that I've cashed a check and it's like you cannot do anything wrong. And that's exactly what happened to me up there on the Juniata. Is it's like every little thing that I've learned over the last 5 years of kayak fishing played a role into me being able to win, but at the same time I couldn't do anything wrong.
Dude, what's next for you?
I'm gonna start out with the next couple. I got a couple of tournaments to round out the summer, but I mean, to me, I just want to be there for the younger guys because I ran into this 14-year-old kid from out where you're kind of from, but are you from Maryland or Virginia?
Yeah, I'm living in Maryland now, but I was born and raised in Northern Virginia.
Okay. He's out from that like Harper's Ferry area, and like he reminded me so much of myself when I was his age. Like I wasn't at the national scene competing in kayak tournaments, but this kid, 14 years old, his name's Owen Miller, cashed a check and got a top 10 finish at 14 years old. Like, and I just want to be there for the guys that are kind of up and coming. And I feel like the college scene has really like opened my eyes to that. It's like there's so many opportunities in the fishing industry that nobody realizes whatsoever. Like you can go on a scholarship to school and compete with expense-free travel out of a kayak and not out of a bass boat. Like there's a lot of bass boat teams and schools that don't even do that. Like Carson Newman and Campbellsville, which is where Jimmy goes, are both schools that like it's all expenses paid for fishing trips. And it opens up an opportunity, especially being down on the TVA. Like coming from here, you bring a lot of techniques down there, but at the same time, you bring a lot of techniques from down on the TVA up here that really do work all around the country. And it's just a super special opportunity that people don't realize.
It's going to grow, you know, now that it's been, I guess, accepted, integrated. I don't know which word you would use for high school and college and now bass, but like now that it's through the whole system, the farm system. And that's the thing is like, I'm going to say it's 2 to 3 years old. I'm just spitballing when it comes to the farm system, which would be high school and college. The bass boat side of things, I think I was part of generation 2 because it was 2014 through 16 for me. And now you're just now seeing like the apex of it, I think, of all these young guns that have had 10 to 15 years of that farm system have taken place, which means in 10 years, in 15 years, once you've had enough time for the crops to kind of come through, the kayak anglers you're going to see is just going to be insane.
Yeah. And I mean, we already have guys now that like, that I single-handedly think could compete on the Elite Series. Like, I always say this, a bass boat angler can't come into a kayak and catch fish out of a kayak, but a kayak angler can go into a bass boat and catch fish out of a bass boat. And there's a couple of guys. just because, like, I feel like when you are fishing out of a kayak, like you're confined to so much space in such a little part of the body of water that you're fishing. If you take lessons you learned out of a kayak and apply it to a bass boat, I mean, you, now granted, you're probably going to need a little bit of time to swap over, but I stand true to this opinion. There is no way that a bass boat guy that's never stepped foot in a kayak can compete in a kayak compared to if a kayak guy goes into a bass boat.
I agree. It's made me a better bass boat angler since
Mhm.
I've been fishing out of kayak the last 3 to 4 years because it's the Japanese style of fishing. Like when the Japanese anglers came over here, they didn't run and gun. There's like, I'm going to pick this creek. I'm just going to pick the damn thing apart.
Yeah,
And
just break it down and literally hit every single thing that you can.
you learn, oh shit, there's 5 fish everywhere. And it
Mhm.
changes your brain chemistry, I swear, because you don't have that monkey on your back of like, well, you got the 250. Why aren't you using it? And I'm telling you, it's a crutch sometimes because you just think I need to leave to find fish versus there are fish here. I just need to make them bite.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy how far technology's come too. Like we talk about scope and this and that, but like some of the graphs out on the market that we have access to now, like I think it's the Power Pole Vision, like that out of a bass boat and a kayak, like having access to real time satellite mapping, like out on the water makes a major difference. And I feel like just technology, like with scope and all this and that, I feel like scope's going to evolve into just this crazy, like you're going to be able to tell that it's a 7.62 pounder before you even cast at it. Like who knows what's to come.
Are we going to get plastic bass boats? Because I feel like with Torpedo being bought up by a Yamaha,
Mhm.
I feel like that's the next thing. The next step is we're going to keep getting them pushed and pushed to the limit. I mean, you can see some of the things with the 130, the XR, that kind of looks like a bass boat. And like
Yeah.
that's the first gateway drug as we keep creeping along. So in 5 to 10 years, are we going to have a 15-foot plastic? And will it be a kayak? Will it be a bass boat? Who knows?
I feel like it is definitely a possibility. Like I would not put that by anybody, but at the same time, I feel like we got to have a limit in the kayak side. I feel like we have to keep to kind of our grassroots of just trying to be this, not trying to be the same as the bass boat side and kind of branching off and doing our own thing and shining and highlighting just these fisheries that all these bass boat tournaments go to. And it's like,
That's the
it
thing.
fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like even bodies of water that these bass boat tournaments don't get to go to. Like, I feel like, in my opinion, in the next couple of years, if scope keeps advancing, we're going to have a limit in the kayak side. And I feel like we're going to have to, in a way, follow the boat side and do like 1 day scope, 1 day no scope. Because I feel like you're going to have to level the field at some point. And I feel like if technology keeps getting bigger into the fishing scene and the kayaks keep getting bigger, there's got to be some sort of limitations put into play.
Yeah, and so much of it too, like that's a whole rabbit hole we go down because like
Mhm.
after talking to so many biologists on the show, it's the habitat in the lake is just as important as scope. And if you're gonna keep going to Smith Lake in Alabama in July, yeah, scope will play. But if you go to the Pascatank
Mhm.
or if you go to if you go up to some of these Eastern Shore rivers or Lake Champlain, these places where you don't need scope, the Mississippi, like
Mhm.
you have a puncher's chance without it. And so there are a lot of fisheries that are really good right now where I don't think you could win with scope. The shallow water bite is just hot and the lakes are there. It's just that do the places get paid to go there? And let's just be real, guys. If you're listening, that's what it's about. And I think that's sad because I do think scope, two things can be true. I think scope needs to be reined in, but also go to the fisheries that allow for the different diverse techniques to shine. A frog will
Yeah.
only work where there's a place that a frog will work. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. And like you said, money
Yeah.
has
It
been
is
the
what it
biggest
is. It
thing.
is what it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, you can't change that. Like, people got to make their money somehow, and it
Yeah.
sucks, but it is what it is.
Because I mean, I think that's the thing about doing a regional show is like you talk about Back Bay, and it's like cool. They pull 6 to 8 pounders there all the time. We'll never go there for a tournament, and
Mhm.
it's just frog fishing central or Roanoke Rapids, Lake Gaston. They're pulling dirty 30s out of the water willow. There's
Yeah.
a lot of Great Lakes around here that people just don't know about.
Yep. Smaller little tourism groups that just don't have the money to fund these big tournaments and get like, and that's the sad thing too, is like some of these places in the country are not only some of the most beautiful places, they also have, like you said, some of the best fishing anywhere, and they just can't get their name out there because they don't have, for like however much it costs to bring an elite series or open event out there, they don't have that kind of money to just throw around.
And it's scary because if the Susquehanna, if some different counties didn't fork out the money initially, no one would know about the Susquehanna. Like the reason it became big is there was equal players there, and they were able to make that work. Otherwise, this area would not exist on the fishing map necessarily the way it does today, which is a interesting alternate history to go down.
And I hear this is another thing about the Susky that I hear from a lot of guys, not in the kayak side, but individuals up there in that area that claim that the kayak tournaments blew up the Susquehanna, which in a way they did, but at the same time people already knew about it. And I feel like not only has the kayak brought attention to the river, it's funding a lot of their paychecks. Like, they can complain about it all they want, but I don't think they'd be making any money unless the kayak scene came there and blew it up. Like,
The most fascinating
double-edged sword.
The fascinating thing is to have locals and guides come on and say like they make their living off people wanting to fish the river, and then they complain that too many people want to fish the river.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah, it's like you can't win, dude. Like, yeah, it's a whole other conversation we could get down.
Yeah,
but I'm going to save that for Jake Harshman, who's going to be coming on this show here before the next big Susquehanna event. So we can definitely get into the dirty because he doesn't care and he'll say whatever he wants.
I love Jake. Jake has been awesome. I'm not super close with him, but I've ran into him quite a bit over the years, and he's an awesome guy. Like, I love him to death.
He will let you know if you're ugly or not, and he'll tell you to your face without a problem. That's for sure. You have social media and a podcast. I want to make sure we talk about that.
Yeah. So I do have a podcast. It is called the No Ramp Required Podcast. You're going to ask why I picked that name, and it's because I kayak fish, and you don't necessarily need a ramp to put in at a body of water. Like, you can slide it down I've slid a kayak down a cliff face before and put in at a lake that nobody's touched before, and it's done really good. But yeah, so just gonna kind of give you guys a short little introduction to my podcast. So the No Ramp Required podcast is highlighting kayak fishing, but also highlighting, I have a monthly episode. It's called the Yak EA episode, which is the name of a college group chat down at school. So I can't give you a reason for the name or anything like that, but it's highlighting the opportunities of college kayak fishing and just letting different anglers talk about their experiences out there and kind of show the world you have the option to go to school with a couple of rods and tackle and no kayak and compete on the national scene, travel the country for free, all expenses paid for, and just have an awesome time. And the two bigger schools that are doing it, which is Carson Newman and Campbellsville, both are Christian universities. So you're able to grow an education, your fishing skills, and most importantly, you're getting closer to God and being around a bunch of like-minded people. And it's an opportunity that I was fortunate enough to have. I met Ewing Minor when he first started out in the college fishing down at a random boat ramp on the Harris Chain in Florida. And that was, I guess, 4 years ago. It was like the first year I started kayak fishing. And ever since then, it's been a dream of mine, and I was able to make it happen. And it's been such a blessing. And then As far as my other social media goes, I have TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. They're all going to be jordan.lovejoy.fishing. And I believe Facebook I think that's my username, but if you look up Jordan Lovejoy, you can find me on there as well.
Guys, as always, I'm going to put a link in the episode description to everything. Please go give him a follow on all of his exploits as his career continues to blossom. And I think we're going to be seeing bigger and bigger things from him on the biggest stages of kayak bass fishing. Is there anything else that we forgot to touch on?
I think we touched on a little bit of everything, I'd say.
Guys, as always, link in the episode description to everything we talked about today. Also, if you'd like to go check us out on Patreon, if it wasn't for you guys, this show wouldn't be possible. Huge shout out to all of my Hall of Fame tier level supporters, which includes Terry Bailey, Finch, and Michael Eckert of Lake Anna Weather. If you guys are going down to Lake Anna, or planning a vacation or to fish, go check out Lake Anna Weather. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia. Fishing ProTech, located just outside Williamsburg, Virginia. LMD Enterprises, keeping your boat, truck, and equipment running at its absolute finest. Tactical Fishing Company, Kevin Flint at Flint Financial Planning. Steady, thoughtful guidance that meets you where you are and supports what comes next. And Max for Fishing.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.